any burden on me, only sustain me, and sever any tie in my heart except the tie that binds my heart to yours. If you have men who will only come if they know there is a good road, I don't want them. I want men who will come if there is no road at all. I will go anywhere, provided it be forward. David Livingston.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle that we've been hosting here at Still and Moving Center since right after the pandemic put us into online. I think we were in April of 2020 when we began. And it's just been a wonderful road to travel on. Speaking of roads, and thank you so much for those of you who have been traveling with us so much of this time. We are into a week where we celebrate the Buddhist holiday of Buddha Purnima, which is also known as Vesak. We are so fortunate to have with us someone who is a worker at, I can't tell you her exact title at the United Nations, but she works at the United Nations, which not too long ago finally recognized Vesak as a United Nations holiday. And it's a day when three great events in the life cycle of the Buddha are recognized. The date of his birth, the date of his enlightenment, and also the date of his passing out of this world. Are you hearing me okay now? Okay. And the topic that we are taking up today is the Great Renunciation, which our speaker, Tushari, was able to tell me is yet a fourth date in his life, about which I think you got a passage from this beautiful book called The Light of Asia by Sir Edwin Arnold, when Prince Siddhartha leaves the pleasure palace, so to speak, where he was born and raised and had already married and just had a baby son. But it was at a time when he had become aware of the suffering of the world, and he felt as if he had no other option but to leave all of these dear people and this environment behind to seek an end to suffering. So that is technically what's considered the Great Renunciation. And as we listen to Tushara, Sarah, we'll be exploring more this idea of the Great Renunciation. And she personally has made an amazing journey in the wake of her mother's death a little while ago, that I hope we might be able to hear something about, because she's a remarkable practitioner of the Buddhist faith. And she comes from Sri Lanka, and she'll tell us a little bit about how Vesak or Buddha Purnima is celebrated there. So, Tushari, can I hand it over to you at this point?
Can you hear me, Renée?
Yes, we can.
Is it possible to get the names of the people, at least the audience, who they are? I would just like to hear their name. My name is Tushari, and I know Renée. And who else are there?
Well, I'm Maurice from Santa Barbara, California.
Lovely
I'm
meeting
Mary
you.
in Kaimuki, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Very lovely meeting both of you. Do you mind if I switch off my camera? Would that be okay?
While you're speaking, it would be very much better if you have your camera on.
Okay. All right. Great. No problem.
Oh.
So,
I'm another person here. My name is Bob from Makiki, Honolulu.
Hi, Bob. Hi.
We have
Mm,
Carolyn Dorrance. She's in Santa Barbara, California. Eriko Jones is joining us from Honolulu. And Sharone is hosting our meeting. And she is currently on the island of Oahu, I think in Kailua. And she often is spending part of her time in San Francisco. And my husband, Cliff, whom you know, is also here in Hawaii.
Hi to everybody. Hi, Cliff, and hi, everyone. So lovely meeting you all. And thank you so much for finding time for this, for listening to what Buddha Purnima is. Renee, should I start?
Please.
Yes, so Buddha Purnima is a word that in Pali we call it Abhinishkramana, Maha Abhinishkramana, the great renunciation. So the day that Buddha, at that time, Siddhartha Gautama, the Prince Siddhartha, decides to leave behind all his worldly possessions and his kingdom. So what are his worldly possessions, you may ask? So he had a love of his life, Yasodhara, and he had a beautiful baby boy just born, Rahula. So he left behind all these people that he dearly loved, and in search of something else. So so in Buddhism, we call it, what exactly was he looking for? He was looking for something that does not age with time, that does not decay with the age, and that does not die. So, jarapi dukkhang, vyadapi dukkhang, maranampi dukkhang in Pali. So, so, so it was the month of July, actually, Asala. We call it Asala Masa. Asala is this yellow flower that grows everywhere. You probably have seen that in Hawaii as well. But it's a fragrant flower that blossom in the month, and that is the month when Buddha left his kingdom, and he goes across Niranjana River, and he become a practitioner. He became a yogi. So at that time, when he started out, there were two main practices. One was Atta Kilamatani Yoga, and Kama Sukallikana Yoga. So he came across Atta Kilamatani Yoga, yogis who were practicing suffering and giving tremendous suffering to their bodies. So that they thought they would be enlightened by torturing their bodies. So you may probably see them even now, like I see them when I go to India all the time, when I see them even now. So Buddha saw them, and then and he himself took that path for a couple of years, and he starved himself, and he became so thin and skin and bones, actually. So, and he was about to pass out, and then he realized this is not the truth, it can be. So and then the other path he had at that time was Kamasukallikana Yoga, like giving all the pleasures to your body in search of the enlightenment. So so he decides, no, can be both of them, either one of them. So what he creates is middle path, the path that doesn't entail the extreme suffering or extreme pleasures. So in the middle, so middle path was what he found, and that was the suffering. He identified the suffering, cause for the suffering, and the way out of the suffering, and the path, what we call Four Noble Truths. And then he also came up with 8 noble truths at the path. So that was his Abhidharma. So that was what he found. So Renee also kindly asked me to speak about Vesak. Is that correct, Renee?
Yes.
Yes. So what happened on Vesak Day is very special. So so now he became enlightened after 6 years of practice, 6 years of looking for it, and under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, and in a place in India. So actually, I want to step back one step behind. So on Vesak Day is also the day that Buddha was born. So it commemorates three things: his birth, and his enlightenment, and his passing away. Three things on one day in different years, of course. So in a full moon day on the Vesak month is when Buddha was born to Queen Mahamaya and Suddhodana. So two people, like, and a king and a queen at that time. So in a place in Nepal. So and then after 26 or 35, when he got enlightened. So and years after, he got enlightened in a place in Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is a place in India, and he sat under the Bodhi tree until he got enlightened. And Honolulu has a branch of that tree planted in Foster Gardens. So you're very close to Buddhism, those who are living in Hawaii. So you can go to the Bodhi tree in Foster Gardens and pray to that tree. That's the same tree that came from India. So so on the Vesak Day is also the day that Mahaparinibbana happened. Mahaparinibbana is when Buddha passed away. He died, and at the age of 80, in Kusinagar, in a place in India. So he had 45 years of practice, and he finally died on a Vesak Day. So it's a very holy day for Buddhists all over the world. And 1999 was when United Nations recognized Vesak as a global holiday for the Buddhists. But it wasn't actually up until very recently that the UN put into practice that. So now I get a day of holiday at the UN because of it's Buddha's birthday and day of enlightenment and passing away. So is there anything I can talk? Anything that Renee wants me to talk?
Well, could you speak to Chari about this idea of renunciation just in general, from your understanding of the Buddhist tradition and your practice of it? What is it that anyone might be renouncing, and why? What did the Buddha renounce, and then how does that, enter into the daily practice of a devoted Buddhist?
Right. So a Buddha, it's a renunciation. It's a great renunciation. So in other words, it's giving up. So we all give up something or the other. We give up a good, like, old car to get a new car, or the house to get a new house. But Buddha did not give anything to get something better for his life. And he gave up the comforts. He gave up everything he had in search of truth. So this renunciation entails leaving behind old worldly possessions, and practicing certain virtues and values. And we call them nekama paramita. So some of the qualities that he has attained came with him for thousands of millions of years. Like, it for lifetime after lifetime, Buddha carried and practiced, like dana paramita, sila. And kanti is patience. And so all these values were like what Buddha practiced. And then so what he gave up was the comforts of daily life, but what he was looking for is ending the suffering. And what is the suffering in his eyes? Everything what we have is subject to decay and dying, and that causes the suffering. And so he searched something that doesn't die with time. So it was the truth that he found. So in Buddhist world, we all practice those virtues. We all undertake, in a way, as a layperson, myself, I practice Buddha's teachings every day, 5 precepts. And if you, on a Poya day is a full moon day, all Buddhists undertake 8 precepts. And then nuns take 10 precepts. And the monks take, so it's so on and so on. Everybody, according to their level, they undertake these precepts. So my precepts are, if I may speak what they are founded by, of course, they're based on Buddhism and they are teachings of Buddha. So thousands of people every day morning pray to Buddha and then take these 5 precepts. If I name them what they are, so Panatipata, Veramani, Sikkhapadang, Samadhiyami, I refrain from killing or incitement for killing or any sort of harassment or for animals and humans of all. So that's the first one. Adinnadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, that I refrain from stealing or taking what is not given to me. Third is Kami Sumichachara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, that I refrain from sexual misconduct or not engaging in pleasures that are not good for you. This is being discussed at so many levels, but it generally speaks about sexual misconduct. So and then Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, that I refrain from lying or all kinds of white lies and empty chatter and all kinds of empty talks that you have in a day. So refrain from that. And finally, Suramere Majjapama Dattana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, that entails that you do not take any intoxicants like drugs and alcohol and things that that take your sati. Sati is your conscious mind. So these are the precepts that all Buddhists take, and these are out of the Buddha's values also.
So all of those are things that are being renounced.
Yes, that was like they came out of the renunciation, and then they became the practice that we will not do this and we will not do that. So it's it's all based on Buddha's values.
And when you talked about the Buddha searching for that which does not die, in a way, what I'm hearing is, well, the body is something that does die. Our bodies are something that do die. So you've taken a vow of non-killing, which is non-violence. So that would include, I presume, renouncing violence to one's own body, really. So that would entail a certain amount of care for the body in the sense of taking care of the body. And yet it seems to be there's a renouncing of the attachment to the body, because the body is something that will pass. And there's this recognition in Buddhism that it is not something eternal. And so there's a certain letting go of this tight grip on the human body. Would you, Tushari, feel at all comfortable in telling about your process when your mother passed? Because to me, it shows such a great detachment in terms of the physical form of your mother, which you needed to release. Would you feel comfortable telling us about a little bit about what you did in the wake of your mother's death?
Absolutely. My mama passed about 4 months ago, and she's a Buddhist and practitioner of Buddhism, a scholar, Buddhist scholar, and everything. She's my first teacher in Buddhism. So I actually did a lot of Buddhist practices before her passing away. So in Buddhist way of chanting Buddha's chants and things like that. And after she passed away, I took her ashes to India. I placed her ashes in Bodh Gaya for 1 week, and I prayed for 1 week with monks and nuns over there. And finally, I took the ashes to Varanasi, Ganges River. So I managed to float them and did in a Buddhist way. Final rites were carried out, and it was it's to be very honest, I'm even though with so much practice. Letting go is so hard when it comes to someone you dearly, dearly love, and knowing that everything what we have changes every moment, and it decays and it dies, and that's the truth of life, and we breathe that information. But it's finally when the moment comes for you to practice it, for you to feel that this is what Buddha taught. This is exactly what he taught, and it just it took me by surprise, the depth of it, and I'm so glad, and I was helped by many monks and nuns that I've known for years to remind me of this message of Buddha, attachment, and there is a great sutra called Great Soka Salharana Sutra. That means that how the sadness can kill you if you don't know how to detach yourself from letting go, and then also the sadness. So Soka Salharana Sutra of Buddha's time taught how you should let go that feeling of sadness also. It just by Buddha's words, I am still alive. I went through great suffering, of course, and the teachings of Buddha helped me out of that suffering, I would say. Yeah.
Well, it was such an amazing story for me to hear. For example, you actually participated in the cremation, and it's for us in the US, there's quite a detachment for the most part. Once someone has, left the body just kind of disappears from American life. I mean, there's somebody who takes the body away, and then you don't often know about it, especially if there's a cremation, until you have a little pot of ashes at the end, right? Or the body is just put into a coffin, and then you don't see it. So you went through a much different experience than that. That was. For me as an American, to hear what you had done was just really so admirable and kind of unbelievable that you could be so close to someone and participate in their last rites in the way that you did. And I do get a sense of how strong these teachings are in you to be able to do what you did and saying goodbye to someone who was so dear to you. And then for you to accompany that participation in the cremation with then doing all these different forms of giving. You gave so much in terms of your time, your food. You opened the house for a very, very long time for anybody who came in to take anything they wanted, any of the food that you had, and so on. You put on many huge meals, I think, for the poor in honor of her. So it's really quite remarkable how your faith in these teachings supported you, I think, through that tremendous event. So I just want to really salute you for how you were a teacher to me, and just telling me how you faced such a powerfully sad time in your life with such resolution and I think confidence in these teachings, that the body itself, as much as you miss having that mother of yours present, that's not the real part. There's something eternal that you identify with, rather than the physical presence of your mother, it seems to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Renée. So I wasn't sure if the audience want to hear all that, but you brought that up. Yes, dana is one of the practices, the main practice of Buddhism, and we share, we give, and Buddha is he excelled in that quality, and I did nothing compared to what he did, but I, as you said, as Renée said, I opened my house for everyone to come and eat for like this 3 months, all in all. So I, when I went to India, I fed about 2,000 people in a single day. So, so dana was my way of healing, and I shared my mother's spices with everybody. I shared everything she gave me. Buddhism is what she actually gave me. That is what finally left me with. Her teachings are Buddhism, actually. So I'm sharing that widely with the world right now, what I learned from my mother. So thank you so much for seeing me and for your kind words, Renée.
Well, if we can open this to a larger conversation, I imagine there are others who might want to make comments or questions on their own experience with renunciation, or what you admire about this idea of renunciation as you've seen it enacted. Anything along those lines would be so welcome.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Now in Christianity, we see a lot of communal worship. People go to church on Sunday, and Muslims go to the mosque on Friday. So, and that's part of the way you show that you're serious and you want to be part of the practice of the religion. In Buddhism, you hear a lot about meditation by the individual, or self-analysis of your practice of the paramitas, the virtues. But do you have community events? Do Buddhists do something together once a week or once a month? Do they come together and chant or say verses or whatever? Is there a way of they come together and they have communal observance of their religion?
Carolyn, I think what I will do is ask Tushari to share what happens at this time of year. It's really quite, especially in Sri Lanka, where she's from.
That's
It's
fine.
quite a lovely recognition of what the significance of it from a spiritual perspective.
Did she hear my question generally?
I think so.
Okay.
Hi, Caroline. Caroline, right? Is it Caroline?
Carolyn.
Caroline. Thank you so much for your question, Caroline. I heard your question loud and clear. And I just would like to bring one example, like whether the question it's a Buddhism communal thing, like what do we do as a community? So month of May, if you come to Sri Lanka, you would see that everybody opened their house for everybody else. So it's a month of giving and sharing, and it is not just one day, one whole month. Whole month of May is open for everybody. Anybody who's hungry can walk into my house or anybody's house and have a meal. So it's and we call it's a month of giving and sharing. So we decorate our houses with lanterns. We call them like Buddha's life stories, and then we have different. It's so festive right now. If you go, you know, people like it's like Halloween in a way. Like I look at like how people decorate streets with like everything like skeletons. And instead of skeletons, we have Buddha's life stories all over. So everybody, whether if you're really poor and you cannot make a lantern for yourself, you have to come with your like a light, just a light, a candle, one candle for the whole house. So it's so beautiful right now. If you go to Sri Lanka, you will see lights everywhere. Like so it's, and then so much of sharing and giving and month of practice. And this whole month, people get together in temples and they pray together. And whole month, and especially on the Poya day, it's a national holiday. So actually, it's more than one day. Sri Lanka declared every full moon day is a national holiday for so that people can take 10 precepts instead of 5 precepts. So they have to take all 10 precepts and sit in a temple. So it's a community. So it's a very much community driven religion. And there are parts of it, as you very well said, Caroline, that requires for you to building up sati. Sati is your mind, and Buddha recognized your mind as the power of your mind, and how everything is controlled by your mind. So there is a journey to go with you and yourself and your sati. That so that part is actually done by with you yourself, and but a great level of community activities and monasteries, like hundreds of. I welcome all of you one day to come to Sri Lanka, including Renee, and I would love to show you around. Really, I mean it, and I would love to go you and show you around all the Buddhist sites in Sri Lanka. When Buddha's relics were brought to Sri Lanka, and his tooth and his body parts, and the very tree that died in India for 5 times it was killed in India, was brought to Sri Lanka and preserved in Sri Lanka. So it's in a way Buddha is being preserved in Sri Lanka. So I just would love each one of you one day come to Sri Lanka and then experience what Buddhism. If can you do that in month of May, that would be perfect. And yeah,
That'd be the perfect time to come.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Cliff, did you have a question or comment?
I guess, yeah, I guess the question, Shara. So I was just thinking about us as, we're kind of these unique creatures here on the earth, in that we have this self-awareness that when we're doing something right, we're doing something right. When we're doing something wrong, we're doing something wrong. In other words, we have the ability to make choices all the time. And as I understand it, as the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and was on the verge of enlightenment, he could see all of his lives that he went through and all these choices that he made and all these good choices that he made. And it helped him to kind of go through the school of learning and gain deeper and deeper wisdom and greater and greater, more universal compassion. And the teaching, as I understand it, of the Buddha is that he chose, even though he more or less graduated from the school of mortal life, he chose not to leave the world, but to come back into the world and renounce nirvana because of his great dana, his great love of the rest of us. I was wondering if you could say something about that idea of renunciation, where when we get to the end of school, when we can graduate, say, from the school of learning here on the planet, that we can actually make a choice whether we leave and go to some, like, say, paradise or heaven or nirvana or enlightenment, or we can come back into the world and help others find their way. Could you say something about that idea of renunciation?
Amazing. Cliff always blows my mind. Like, I mean, thank you so much. You have studied Buddhism, and that shows that you know a great amount of Buddhism. That's amazing. So Buddha was actually, when he had that option to take that knowledge for himself and then just go with that knowledge, but he was actually, Mara came on when he was enlightened, exactly under the Bodhi tree. Mara came and invited him to die. He said, like, what's the point? Now you have you have achieved it. Why don't you go back? Like, your time is over. And he said, well, I haven't started Sangha yet. I haven't started my disciples and who will take after me. Like, Dhamma, like what he created Dhamma. So he stayed behind, so that 45 years afterwards, he taught Dhamma, Abhidhamma, through the Sangha that he created. The 5 disciples that came in Saranath took his word and went in all directions. So they created Sangha. And so his words remained after 2,567 years after. It's because of that. So he did not go, but he remained, so that his words could be spread in the world in 45 years. Yeah. Yes. Anything else?
Maurice?
Maybe a little off the subject, but on the subject. I was aware that I will not pronounce his name correctly, but Mr. Ariante,
Mm-hmm.
and passed away
Yeah,
recently.
yesterday.
And for those who don't know who I'm speaking about, and I'm not pronouncing his name probably correctly, from Sri Lanka, he was Buddhist, and he took Buddhism and combined it with Gandhian practices. And he was, I think, an 8th grade mathematics teacher. And he organized his students to go to the next village and help build sanitation and a road as part of his school. And he called it awakening. And by social engagement. You can call it engaged Buddhism. Some people call it that. He broadened the circle, and pretty soon he had many, many people working with him. And they tried to get Western aid from Norway that gave a grant. Then they realized that they had to define their own goals, not the aid agency. And then, of course, Sri Lanka's been burdened by this terrible civil war. And he actually was honored by both groups, the Buddhists and radical Hindus, if you want to call them that. And he was very respected by both because of his practicing of nonviolence or ahimsa, but he did it in the Buddhist tradition. Even when he was confronted at his house with soldiers with guns, he was so honored that he just told them to wait a minute, he's going to call their boss. And everything was settled. That's what he told me in person when I met him. So I just wanted to honor him and honor Sri Lanka, but also ask you, Sarah, if you have any thoughts or information about his passing and about his achievement.
How may I say your name one more time?
Maurice.
Maurice.
Yeah.
One more time, you blow my mind with this. You have met Dr. Ariyaratne yourself. That's amazing, and he is a Buddhist, and he is a practitioner of Buddhism as well. So more than a theoretical, like he's not a scholar, he's not, but he did a lot of his Buddhism came through his work. And I'm very delighted to hear that you were in Sri Lanka to meet him. Were you in Sri Lanka when you met him?
No, but I was at a conference in California and I met him.
Okay. So Vinny is his son. Vinny Ariyaratne is actually running the movement now. So he took, I think 10 years ago, the reins of his father. So he's running the nonprofit they started. So, and he was sick for a while. So all what I know, and he was, I even because of my line of work and how busy I have been with my own mother, I really did not have time to go and see him. And I regret it when I heard the news. I was like, oh, I missed the opportunity to say hello to him before he died. But that's life. So, yeah.
I think his movement was called the Sarvodaya.
Sarvodaya movement.
And what does that mean? What does that mean? The awakening or the word Sarvodaya?
So it's a grassroots movement actually, so very similar to what they had in India as well. So it's the community. If you ask me the way that modus operandi of Sarvodaya, I wouldn't be able to explain it to you. But the World Bank and all the United Nations funding agencies studied this, and actually a lot of people were able to save money and start small businesses. So that was a funding mechanism for many people in the country. So, but I promise to send you some articles on that. So without taking much time on this platform, if that is okay with you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
And I did put into the chat an article that's just appeared. Could you say his name again for us, Titari?
T.H. Ariyaratne.
Ariyaratne.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Arya. It's like Arya Ratna. Yeah. It's like three words put together, like my name itself.
Yeah, that seems so appropriate to honor someone like that, Maurice. Thank you so much for bringing him up at this time. Bob, you are a practicing Buddhist, I think in the Zen Buddhist tradition, and I wonder if you have any comments or questions you'd like to add in.
Well, yeah, I've enjoyed very much the presentation and also the contributions of everyone so far. I think it's interesting. I practice more the Chinese Japanese form of Chan Buddhism, but leaving home is considered sort of the beginning of one's practice. The Buddha left home. Even one symbol of leaving home is riding a horse, because he had his horse and he rode away. At the same time, there's a kind of, as you presented, coming to something which doesn't pass away. And in my tradition, we generally refer to that as finding your true home. And that's kind of a reference. And in terms of what Renee asked, what is renounced? I think that it kind of changes with each tradition as the Buddhism is practiced in Sri Lanka, in Southeast Asia, in China, Korea, Tibet, all those places. It changes a little bit, but I think one thing I've experienced is that what is renounced is not so much activity or feelings or compassion, but the attachment to the results. In other words, don't attach to what the effect of something is. It might be good in the case of the movement, and it might not be. We don't know how it's going to respond. At the same time, doing it is in and of itself a form of practice. In the Chinese tradition, it's called developing your human-heartedness so that it can flourish. And I think this is really how, when Buddhism came to China, it resonated with the social aspect of Confucianism and the nature aspect of Taoism. And so, that kind of works its way through. Buddha himself said, I teach only one thing, suffering and its cessation. So what is renounced is suffering and unsatisfactoriness. We have to work with our minds so that to some extent we don't attach ourselves to the suffering that we go through. And also whatever happens for a reason. I think the reference to karma comes in. Lifetimes of good things in terms of Buddha's past lives, but he had some suffering in each of those last times. The Jataka tell how Mara is part of each of those lifetimes, comes to him and does something, and he's got to learn from it. He's got to kind of work it through. So I think that's kind of the sense of renunciation is a constant practice. And in China, they say that humankind emulates Earth, and Earth is where life comes from. Earth emulates heaven, which is where patterns happen. And heaven emulates the Tao, which is everything happening. And the Tao emulates what spontaneously occurs right now. And if your mother passes away, grief is going to come, and grief is going to pass. That's part of it. And the dana aspect is not only taking that personally, but also expressing it through, that. The renunciations, it's one thing to say we renounce things, but the other side of it is we fully accept things. So you say, I will not lie, but that means also that you accept your obligation to tell the truth, to be truthful, not stealing. Well, okay, you don't take things that aren't yours, but the dana aspect you were describing is a form, the positive form of not taking. The opposite of not taking is giving of yourself fully. And all of that is the full practice of Buddhism, because it's never ending. It's just the ongoingness. And I think that's the spiritual side of all religions, is that we keep doing it regardless. We just don't attach ourselves to the results. Renounce that it's have a good effect. We just know it's going to change. Anyway, that it came up as we were talking, but I really appreciated the other comments on other people and how they practice. Part of Buddhism, I think, is finding models of good Buddhists, bodhisattvas, that we can emulate.
Thank you so much, Bob. Mary, do you have a comment you'd like to make? And then I'm going to call on Sharona in case she'd like to.
Mahalo. Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Sarah. I just am so thankful to learn about different practices, different religions, because I'm not aware of the different things, but that it is so reassuring that, like Bob said, there's, the common thread through all religions is to do no harm and to love. And the community, everybody who does not have a community to help them through the difficult times, I feel so poor. I feel really badly for anybody who just feels like they've got nobody to help them, nobody to love them, nobody to just sit with them when they're feeling low. And it's very sad. And I also believe that everything is cyclical with the proliferation of electronics and, you know, kids in my house, they've got their faces in their phones, almost seems like 24/7. But I think our parents felt the same way when television came into the picture. And so it's, people will survive, we will survive. And it's the quality of that survival that we hope will just be constant and wonderful and loving. Amen.
Thank you, Mary. And after Sharoni, I'm going to call on Eriko if she'd like to also.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone. This concept or this title of great renunciation always make me think first of like monks and sages and, reaching enlightenment through giving up everything. But I think it's not just limited to that extreme. I think I like to look at things in like a practical, everyday way, right? Like my goal is not to reach enlightenment, is to like live a life when I'm not doing harm and, things are good. So I think in the most simple way makes me think of how it involves cultivating qualities such as contentment and simplicity and non-attachment in, everyday life. Like it makes me think of like letting go of harmful habits and reducing my materialistic desire of like buying things and kind of like prioritizing self-growth and a spiritual growth. And I think the ultimate goal of this renunciation from the Buddhist aspect is to free oneself from the cycle of suffering and attaining our nirvana or liberation. But I think in a way like that just for me sounds so like far away and unrealistic. So I like to think of it as a journey of transformation and awakening of my true nature through like everyday practice by just doing simple things, right? Like, consuming less and nurturing myself with simple things, simplicity. Yeah.
And thank you so much. And Eriko? Eriko is originally from Japan, living here in Honolulu now.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful story that I just overwhelmed with what everybody said, and then made me really think about renunciation, and it's just the still processing everything. But I really enjoy your story about what's happening in Sri Lanka in May. That sounds really fun. Yeah. And but overall, I really like your smile and then how you just the talk, and then it was wonderful presentation. Thank you.
To Shari, before I ask for someone to give a vote of thanks, is there anything you'd like to close with? Anything you might have missed or you were inspired from listening to others to say?
It just blows my mind every time to meet people from across continents. This is not across. So California to Hawaii. I'm sitting in New York City right now. So, and this, oh my God, you have learned so much in your life. It's amazing. So sometimes when I go through my life, I think, oh, this is only my experience, but it's amazing to hear other people talk about their lives and how much, and I feel they are half enlightened. They are on the way there. Like that's what I feel. I feel like without even knowing Buddhism, people have gone so far. And it's just like, in the when Buddha comes and like wave a flower, and then like the person who's ready, and he become instantly enlightened. So because the process has been happening without Buddha there, that the process is ongoing. So like self-development happens. So what I see in people I met today is the same thing. And we are all Buddhists without calling us Buddhists, like yeah. So we are going through the path, and we are all, we are on the journey together. So that's a beautiful to see today. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, before I ask someone to give the vote of thanks, I'll mention that next week we will be taking up the Wisdom of Solomon from the Old Testament tradition, which Renée is going to share with us. And the week after that, one of our frequent presenters, Kirk Radine, who is an architect, is going to speak on the Sphinx. And he's someone who has studied the architecture, the geometry, the sacred geometry of temples of many traditions. So it'll be very interesting to hear him speak on the Sphinx. The following week will be on the virtue of charity or dana, which Mary Bird is going to give, I believe, from the Catholic or Christian tradition. So is there somebody who would love to give Tushari a vote of thanks for her presentation today? I'd be so happy to do it. Tushari, I know that you are so busy as a person working at the UN and dealing with the world's crises and conflicts. And I can't imagine how you ever get a moment's sleep, given the job that you have, and for you to take precious time to prepare for this conversation and to spend your time with us is really something that we appreciate very, very much. And also your willingness to share at a deep level your personal experience with your faith gives us such an insight into what it means to live a life of faith from whatever, as Mary mentions, whichever path it is one follows, to do so wholeheartedly, I think is at the root of us making progress along it, and also sharing it with others. And so your commitment now to do more of the Sangha work or the satsang work of sharing your faith, we really appreciate you sharing with us. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending today. It's wonderful to have each one of you.